Hey, I'm so excited. What's up, Khalil?
Hey.
How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
Listen, first of all, I'm so excited about this episode and what is to come. And just the fact of like just having you here. Um, First of all, this has been something that has been in the works for a minute. And for those that, know me, I've been in school working and other things going on. We had a little summer break or whatever, but we're back. The second half of season 8 of the Speaker podcast. And so we're live on Instagram. What's up, Ro from the 6 a.m.? She's joining me there on Instagram Live. We got Jeremy Jackson in the building. He's the king of life insurance. Y'all go check out my brother. So before we get everything going, first of all, everybody, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Camille Essick, host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. If you don't know, you're about to know. Hit that notification button and follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essick. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. If you have any questions, just hit me up with an email at info@CamilleEssick.com. Catch all the merchandise on my website at www.CamilleEssick.com. What's up? We got our brother Roscoe in the building, the king of real estate. If you want to come to Texas, you got to go through Roscoe. So hit him up, everybody, today and get your house. And Khalil is here. So without further ado, to kick off the show, and this episode is being brought to you by Chemistry Room Fragrances, creating clarity. My room spray collection. Get it right now on my website at www.camilleesther.com and on Instagram at Chemistry Room Fragrances. And beverages tonight brought to you by Chick-fil-A. So Khalil, thank you for joining us. Let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Khalil Kavon. I am a director, the CEO of Khalil Kavon Studios, located here in Atlanta, Georgia, with our cyber location in New York and LA. I have been doing this for 12 years. I am also a songwriter, a podcast host of Creative Radio, available on all platforms. And we're here tonight. So that's a little bit about me.
So before we get started and just dive into this juicy conversation for tonight, we were talking the other day on the phone, and it seems like every time I talk to you, Khalil, I learn something new about you, and vice versa. This friendship is cool. So I was talking to you, and you said your mom is the first and only female rapper from Public Enemy.
Correct.
Help me out with this.
Hip hop legacy, Public Enemy. That is my mother. So that's history. So I come from history. I come from a legendary background. So this is where you see what has become today is from that grounding, that foundation. So
yeah. So as we get into that, Khalil, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do. Just a little insight into who is Khalil.
Yes, so Khalil. So we have Khalil Kavon. I am originally born and raised in New York. Lived there for many years, and then I decided LA was going to be my home for about 5 years. So I moved to LA, spent about 5 years there, and then here we are in Atlanta. And so I love to travel. I love to direct. As you know, I'm a creative. I love creativity on all aspects, from the lens to behind the scenes, to in front of the camera, to songwriting. And Khalil, beyond just the directing, beyond the creativity, he's a chill, hilarious guy. And that's the part that many people didn't get to see behind the scenes. But now you get to see that more here. You can see that more this September on Creative Radio. So I'm excited.
Yes. And we also want to thank Michael for joining us.
Hey, Michael.
And everybody here on Instagram, thanks for tuning in. So from childhood, when did you realize that you were called to the lens? So, because you work with big names, like you work with Nicki Minaj and Keke Palmer, and all these celebrities and artists. So let's go back. What inspired you to even pick up the camera?
Great question. So when I was in school, I would always fidget around with anything that I saw that was like colorful or technical or creative. So it started out with me looking at my teacher's bulletin boards. So I'll always be like, oh, like I want to design your bulletin boards. Like I want to, put the backgrounds, I want to put the trims. And my teachers, they just allow me to be creatively free. So it started there where my creative freedom was able to be nourished. And then I started saying, I'm starting to have an eye. So I remember I was taking like a computer class in probably about late elementary school, and I was like, I'm bored. Like we were just doing like these PowerPoint presentations, and we just began taught how to do slideshows. And so I was like, I'm really bored of this. Like I want to do more. Like I want effects. I want to do, I want to see things in action. And I think from there, that's when I really started to realize that I wanted to pick up the lens. And what also brought me to that was my teacher. I literally looked at her worksheet. It was a design worksheet. So like it had these different designs, these different colors, these different texts. I went home and duplicated that worksheet, brought it back to her the next day. And she said, did you steal my worksheets up the class? And I said, no. I said, I went home and literally designed the whole worksheet over. So from there, that's where I knew, okay, like there's some type of creation here that you want to do. So really, to be honest, it didn't start out with me knowing I wanted to pick up the lens. I thought I was going to be a background dancer for somebody. It started out in dance, surprisingly. Okay. And so I was doing my school talent shows. And so around this time, after I was doing my school talent shows, I realized, okay, it's time to start picking up the camera. So my mom got me my first like disposable, camera. I started taking pictures of everything, and then it started building up. Then that's when the Cybershot cameras, like the digital cameras, started coming out. Picked that up, and I actually shot my school's commercial from there. So that was the beginning. After that school commercial and that digital camera, and it looked like a production, that's when it's like, okay, we need to take this serious. And that's where things moved forward from there.
Okay. So do you notice, at least for me, it seems like as kids, when we are creative, the way we process and see the world is different, if that makes sense?
Yes. And this is what this last year has kind of been bringing me back to, is going back to that place as a child where you just look at the world from a different lens and a different perspective. Because I feel like during that time, I looked at the world as like this endless place to just create, this endless place to just follow your dreams, and this endless place to do whatever you wanted to. So like if you want to go outside and go on the playground and draw something on the swings, like you were able to do that. And so, yeah, I definitely think there's a different lens that you look through when you are a child.
Yeah. And so when going through that, how do you feel like it impacted your relationship with your parents? Because, for example, I podcast, but when I was a little kid, I used to get in trouble in school, like in kindergarten, first grade, because all my grades were good, but I would get a note sent home like, Camille's a great student, but she talks too much in class. And I would get whoopings for talking too much in class. And sometimes the parents are not in tune with maybe seeing kids' gifts. And so I was getting a whooping for something I do now. And when I was in second grade at Johnson Elementary, I was on the school's, we had a news channel, and I was one of the corresponding reporters in second grade, Johnson Elementary.
I got a fun fact for you then.
Okay.
So the fun fact is, number one, I was also called talkative in class. And then two, I was they was like, okay, so since you're talkative, we're going to put you over the school announcement. So I would do the school announcements every single morning.
In homeroom?
Yes, in homeroom.
Hi, this is Khalil. I'm here for your school announcements.
Yes.
Today is Mrs. Berger's last day teaching. She's retiring over 30 years. Oh my God.
Yes. Lunch is chocolate milk and a franc for your breakfast, for lunch. Oh my God, that used to be. And then we have to do the pledge and the Star Spangled Banner and lift every voice. So that was something.
Wow. Oh my! It just amazes me how sometimes things that we used to get in trouble with as kids, even to those watching on Instagram, how it's actually a part of your destiny and you don't know, right?
That part.
So tonight we're talking about just to switch gears, you know, my thing is mental health. I love mental health, discussing mental health with Black men, because I feel like more Black men don't have spaces where they can safely, and I'm talking to the people on Instagram Live. So you see me looking, that's where I'm at. But as far as like, I feel like a lot of Black men don't have a space that is safe or they feel comfortable to discuss things. And that's one of the things about the Speaker podcast. Of course, you know, girls rock, Black girl magic, all that. I feel like Black women, of course, we come here and we talk about those things too. But I think Black women, we have so many outlets to talk and discuss things. But I feel like what I'm feeling, one of my roles is to begin to open my doors so Black men have a safe place to talk without judgment, no transparency. And I think you guys need that space too. So that's why I decided to open my platform and lean into that as well. So what has your journey been like for you, Khalil, in terms of like healing and forgiveness for yourself?
Woo! I'm glad I have a timer in front of me, because I'm definitely going to have to time this, because I don't want to have a whole TED talk on healing, because we can go for days for that. But what I will,
we can always bring you back, so it's okay.
come on, I'm here for it. So my journey with healing, going back to even the conversation we were having about childhood, when I first started in my creativity, my mom was more of the support system for me, and my dad was really not supportive. So I always say that it was a blessing and a curse that my dad was not in the picture, because had it not been him in the picture, I don't know if you guys would see a Khalil Kavon today. So I was actually bullied. I was bullied when all of this creativity stuff started coming around, because people were like, oh, he's weird. Like, I knew from elementary school, like, I was like, I want to start a business. I was like, I don't want to do a 9 to 5. I would come on dress down days. We wore uniforms. I would come with a suit. So I was bullied all the way up probably to high school. So yeah, that was a very challenging time for me. I never felt secure. I didn't feel confident. I really just felt confident in my creativity. So that was really like my outlet. So when I transitioned out of high school, that's when really my healing journey began, because I realized, like, okay, you're no longer with those kids that bullied you. You're no longer with those students that bullied you. So now you actually have time to find your voice. But I really didn't find my voice till later on, because when you go through so many years of bullying and you go through so many years of torment with people, you literally have to spend now the years outside of high school finding your voice now, because for so many years people were just shutting down your voice. I had kids that kind of was like, we don't want to hear what you got to say. So that alone was trauma. So I had trauma from the bullying. I had trauma from daddy issues. I had trauma from not fitting in school, and then not fitting in the church, because, it's like you have this creative kid. He's witty. He's all over the place. So really looking for a place of acceptance really is healing that I had to go through. So that's the beginning of that journey.
Okay, so with your dad, because and the reason why that stuck out to me, because I kind of had some similar things. The thing is, like with my father, I didn't meet him until I was 19, and it's because that's what he chose, But there were things I felt because he wasn't there, even though outside of when my parents divorced, he was living a very successful life, making 6 figures, but he wasn't. I was not in a part of his circle. So then over time, I had to learn to heal from that. And it was a process. Like, it was a for real process. So for you as a Black man, because the father is the one that kind of like imparts into the child, and for you to be a son, how did that relationship impact you? Because you made a statement, you were like, you don't know if you would be who you are today if he hadn't been in your life. Because I remember one time I had a conversation with my father, and he told me, because I was angry at him for not being there. And he was like, I wasn't there because I loved you. And it didn't make sense to me. And he said, because of where he was in his life, he was like, if I had been there, he said, I would have damaged you. And I was so mad about him not being there. It was not clicking for me until I got older. And then I realized, like, man, if he had been in my life, he probably would have damaged me. So was that the same for you?
Absolutely. I feel like if my father was in my life even more than he was, it would have damaged me. Because first and foremost, because there was no support with the creativity aspect, that would have went out the window. I probably would have submerged everything. I probably would not have wanted to move forward with a business or to be that witty kid, to be like you said from the beginning of this conversation, looking at the world through a different lens. I probably would have looked at the world in such a limited view that
Mm-hmm.
there would have been no business, there would have been no creativity. So yeah, with my father being absent, it was both damaging and both helpful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the damaging part was when it was time for me to speak up in certain situations, I didn't know how to, because I didn't have that backbone in me to say, this is how I do it, or this is how I stand my ground as a man. It was my mom that was teaching me those ways, but my mom could only teach me but so much. So in ways that did begin to hinder me in business, because when I needed to speak up, when I needed to stand up as a CEO, when I needed to stand up as a leader, I wasn't doing that. So people kind of just like, you're the leader, you're the CEO. Why are you not speaking up? Why are you not challenging things? Why are you not, setting boundaries? But because that factor wasn't in my life as a child, then later
Mm-hmm.
on, those parts of me started to show when I needed to show up or when I needed to be assertive for myself.
So I think for me, and you made a really good point talking about finding your voice and being assertive, because throughout school, there was a point in time in my life where I was very introverted, and I still am naturally shy. And people that
Mm-hmm.
know me are like, girl, you're not shy. That's because I know you. But when I'm around people I don't know, I'm just, I don't talk. And people are, oh, she's stuck up. And it's not that. It's just I'm naturally an introvert, and I can only take people in doses and then I retreat. That's just how we're wired.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, with the whole trauma situation and my father not being there, like I was going back to, like I was angry because he wasn't there, but then I had a lot of questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, why weren't you here? And then when we did talk, it was always like we weren't communicating. It was like he was saying what he was saying, but I didn't feel like he was hearing me. So then growing up, I was quiet in school. I didn't talk, but I had all this stuff going on in the inside. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So I took to writing, or I would daydream a lot. And then that's, I think, where creativity came, kicked in with my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So my escape was, I would just in my head, daydream about traveling to other countries. I'm like 9 years old, 10 years old, and I would daydream about going to other countries, or I would daydream about living by a beach, or, but at the same time, I was still upset and still had these feelings, and I carried it for so long. And so by the time I got to college, I was angry, and I didn't realize I was angry, but I would like, party harder than, like, why is she partying so tough? It was like I was just lashing out, because it wasn't until years later when I started doing therapy that I realized I was angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, I got to jump in right there. Because you just said something, and even talking about the introvertedness. Now, I'm starting to realize, even the older that I get, is we think that we're just natural introverts when really that introvertness was developed with trying to deal with all of the drama and the chaos that was going on from what was going on in our childhood. So it's like we have to cocoon ourselves to figure out, how can I adjust to this chaos, this trauma that we don't even know is called trauma, or we don't even know that we're going through trauma, or we're being impacted by trauma. But it's almost like you put yourself in a room to say, how can I look at the world from a different viewpoint without the opinions and the noise that's already around me? Because you already can't have
Without participating. Without
correct.
participating, we're like a spectator. It's like a defense mechanism. And I
Correct.
would do that. Like I would be in a space, but I would kind of, not draw attention to myself, don't want to be seen or heard, even though deep down I wanted to be involved, because I was afraid, like, this person may hurt me. Let me
Mhm.
reach.
It starts from home. It starts from home. When you don't feel like you have a place, or you don't feel like you are being nurtured the way that you are, you almost show up into the world as this person like, okay, I'm gonna pull back here. I'm gonna walk into this room. I'm not really gonna say anything because I already dealt with someone who your core, your father. I already dealt with someone who was supposed to be loving me and nourishing me, and they're not doing that. So when I walk into these other rooms, your defense or your foundation is no one's going to love me in this room. No one's going to support me in this room. No one's going to talk to me in this room. No one is going to want to be my friend in this room because my core, the person that's supposed to love me, doesn't even love me, or they're not even in my life to support me. So why would other people do that when really that's a whole lie within itself?
So that's fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
It's fear of rejection. So then my question is for you, like going through that process, how do you take that in as far as like finding your own identity, your own voice? Like, how did you navigate that, or how are you navigating that?
Well, first off, I had to go to therapy. I am an advocate for therapy. To anyone listening now or on the playback, therapy is so important. I don't care if people say, you're crazy or you sound weird or, why are you going to therapy? You could just deal with that by yourself. But one of the first ways I had to deal with that is therapy. So I had to literally have my therapist talk back to me my thoughts. And when you start really having someone untangle your thoughts, you're like, why do I think like this? Or, why is my thought process like this? Because it's like you start coming to yourself. Like, you're like, the healthy me doesn't think like this. Like this whole rejection thing, or I have to be an introvert, or I have to be indoors, or I have to be to myself. That's not me. That's something that I was rather programmed, or I rehearsed so many different times that I naturally became that. So with identity, I had to say to myself, Khalil, this is not you. Like, you talk, you like to communicate with people, you like going out, you like doing things, but because of that trauma, my identity was the trauma. My identity was rejection. My identity was I didn't have a father. My identity was molestation. My identity was wrapped into all of those things. So it's like I had to really figure out, like, is this you or is this the trauma talking? Because you speak from a healthy place, you see the difference. You see, wow, I'm vibrant, I'm energetic. I like to talk. But when you when your foundation is from that place of trauma, you're kind of just like, you're like going with the flow, like whatever way things are going to go, or however people approach me, I'm just going to go that way because you don't know how to handle it. So
that's really good. Hetty, thank you for joining us. We want to shout out a couple people, and I want to get into something that you said. So Sharonika, thank you for joining us. Roscoe, Michael is here, Ro, Mocha Goddess is here, and also
I think we lost her, but we're coming right back.
We're just talking here with Khalil. We're discussing some things in terms of healing wholeness, and he brought up the point of molestation. And the reason I wanted to touch on that is because I was molested at 7, and then I was molested again when I was 10 years old. And when people don't understand molestation, 2 things happens with the victims of that. You either become very extremely extroverted and like you act out, or you what they call like a turtle syndrome. You go with inward, you become introverted, and at all times into shame, because this thing that somebody has pressed upon you as a child, you don't know how to handle that. And then they're like, well, if you tell, you're going to get in trouble, all the bull crap that they tell you, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you have this secret, but you don't like how it's made you feel. You're angry because you were in a space where no one protected you, or then you become angry at yourself because you think, why did I not lash out or respond or scream or whatever? Because everything is happening, you're confused. So you're first just trying to process like what has happened to you, and then you're angry at yourself for not maybe causing attention so somebody could see what's happening. And then you're angry at the person for doing that to you because it's someone you trusted. So now here it is, you don't trust anybody because you're like, man, this is somebody I've known and trusted, and they touched me inappropriately. So if I can't trust them, I can't trust anybody. And it trickles into every area of your life. And for those of us that are entrepreneurs, as you get older and you walk into entrepreneurship, it's going to impact your level of trust with your business, because you're going to be in your mind, what if this person's trying to get over? What if they try to steal my idea? What if they try to steal my money? You know, and it all ties into a distrust that's linked all the way back that was broken as a child. And you don't see how that distrust dominoes into other areas of your life, whether it's professional, it's spiritual, because now you're having issues with God, you know, in your faith, right? Because if I can't trust this person that I've seen every day, how can I trust God that I can't see? So you see how that distrust, that seed of distrust is sown through something that happened in your trauma as a child, and now it grows into a monster in other areas of your life, as far as your business, your relation with God, friends. Well, I'm going to tell them this, I'm going to tell them that. You know, it's just all these different things. So can you kind of touch on that, Khalil?
Absolutely. First and foremost, you just said so many things that can be impacted, but one of the things is first the guilt. The guilt that you walk around after molestation is so heavy and so toxic that literally when you show up as a human, when you show up as yourself to the world, you're not really showing up as yourself. You're showing up as guilty. So you walk into places and you have this guilt and this shame that's on you, and you're wondering why you can't connect with anyone or you can't open up because you're like, I feel guilty. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. And people are like, what did you say? And you're just like, I didn't say nothing. What did you say? And it's really the inner child in you screaming out, like, I didn't scream or I didn't say nothing. So first of all, you don't it builds a thing where you don't trust yourself, because now you're blaming yourself for something that was not your fault, that someone did to you. So the inner child in you doesn't even trust yourself, because you're like, if I didn't scream out at that moment, or if I didn't, tell someone at that moment, then maybe I'm not capable of speaking, or I'm not capable of talking. So you put a muzzling over your voice. And that's dangerous. For many years in business, I put a muzzling over my voice. And even in my personal life, I put a muzzling over my voice because I felt like I wasn't important to the room, or, someone may share something with me that's sacred, and I'm not going to, I'm rather not going to be trustful, or I'm not going to be able to handle that because I didn't handle the molestation, which I was a kid. I was little. And going into the business portion, that shows up with you later in life if you don't deal with it. So for me in business, I have people that will come in and they will say, hey, I want to work on you. I want to, be an employee, or I want to be an intern. And I would be so mistrustful that I would even want to get them my schedule. That's how much mistrust that I had. Yeah. And
so for you as a Black man, how does that tie into just how you show up as a Black man with not wanting to give your schedule, not wanting to trust people, even your relational choices?
It shows up as self-sabotage. It shows up as self-sabotage as a Black man. You already, as a Black man in this world, you already have the stigmas and the things that already come with being a Black man. So now you have this addition of molestation that comes with it, and you're showing up sabotaging everything. So it's like God blesses you with these opportunities and you're sabotaging it because you don't realize you're not healed. So you're mistrusting the people that God sends you. You're mistrusting the people that God sent to help you. You're literally creating stories and narratives in your head to push them away in personal life and in business, because you're like, I can't handle this. I don't, why me? Why would you want to, be around me? Why would you want to support me? Why would you want to, be around? And it's a confidence thing. So you're self-sabotaging situations. You're not showing up confident. You're not showing up as who you're really supposed to be, because all of this trauma is coming out of your voice, or you're creating narratives from the trauma instead of showing up how you're supposed to really show up.
Do you think for men sometimes it shows up as overachieving? Like you get all these degrees, you get all this money, you gotta have the car, your body gotta be super tight, you got all the people you're dating, and you got to have the house, like this image, because you're trying to do everything to hide what you feel like is this imperfection or this part of you that's inadequate. So now you're overcompensating by overperforming.
I absolutely think that is on cue. I feel like for Black men to hide your trauma, the overperformer or the strong man is he don't have no trauma because he's confident. You see, he got the house, he got the car, he got the relationship. He's cool. And really, that's when you find the most toxic men. That's when you find out those men are rather abusive, that they're narcissists. You find that there are these different traumas that come with these situations because the overachiever now has to be this perfect man who shows up to this world like everything is so perfect and everything is so glued together, when really his life is falling apart behind the scenes. He's driving, the best car, but meanwhile, he's falling apart when driving that car. He has the best house, but he feels alone in that house. And for me, I even dealt with that.
I might be waking up screaming.
Yeah, that part.
Trauma.
That part. And I was dealing with that. I even dealt with that, trying to be the overachiever, the overperformer for everybody. I felt like, woo, I have the success. So now everyone looks at me, in the different lens. I'm not looking at myself at the different lens because I'm still the traumatized me, but everyone is like, oh, overachiever, successful. He works with celebrities. He works with this. All of this. But meanwhile, I was going home broken. I was going home feeling depleted. I was going home feeling like having breakdowns, and no one knew because I was going off a schedule. Hey, okay, cool. I got a schedule. Let me overachieve. Let me cover the trauma. Let me cover this. And that's
toxic. Shows up in promiscuity for men.
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
And that's because of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the again, you have to be the leader, you have to be the strong man, you have to be the head of the household, you have to be the head of the business, you have to be the name for the family lineage. Like, you carry all these different titles that one man himself cannot carry. It becomes a burden.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, Khalil. I had a guest on, I want to say season 3, and we were talking about some things because he came out of an abusive home, and nice looking guys in Atlanta, but he admitted that he was like, he and his sister went through a lot of trauma. And he said during the episode, he said, some men, when they go through things, some men turn to alcohol, some turn to drugs. He said his drug of choice was women, and he battled with depression and low self-esteem. And the reason why he did that was because he was like, for that moment when he's with this woman, he felt important, he felt wanted, he felt validated, he felt like somebody needed him, even though he didn't want to do it because he needed that validation for that moment of time. Whatever would go down. And he said when it was over, he went from this high to this low because he felt bad about using the woman so he could get his fix. But then he said, and one day he might be with 3 or 4 women in one day because he needed a continual high just to get through the day. And then, he'll go through that low, but then he needed the high again. And he said, and I asked him, I said, were you doing therapy? And he was like, no. But he admitted, like, addicted because he needed that. And I guess, I don't know if he still does that, but at the time when I interviewed him, he was going through that cycle of just going through 3 or 4 women a day just to get through the day, like an addict, just to get that high, to feel important, to feel loved, to feel needed. Then we go through these depressions where he would just drop off social media, nobody could reach him, and he would be like in this cloud, and then he would come back in these cycles. And I was like, wow, just to hear that. And I wonder like how many men actually experience that.
Oof, a lot of men go through that. And the thing is, I feel like, going back to what we talked about before, because you are required as a Black man to carry all these different titles, you really can't express, hey, I just had a breakdown last night, so this is what this is. It's like, why would you have a breakdown? You're supposed to, you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to, you're supposed to carry this title. You're supposed to carry the torch. So how can you have a breakdown? How can you cry? How can you have emotions? How can you look at the world like this? Trauma. What is trauma? As a Black man, you're not supposed to have trauma. You're supposed to just punch that in the face, and you're supposed to just, bury that in the hatchet and live your life. And I even went through that. Creativity was my addiction. I thought, by having a business and by doing creativity and by being the man, like you said, and, being the one they call on was it. It's not. And I hate to say it, but like the whole grind and hustle all the time and not deal with trauma is toxic. And this is why I had to literally sit down over the past few years and realize, Khalil, this ain't it. Like going day to day to day and trying to show up and being this strong man. And meanwhile, you breaking down on the inside and your heart is heavy and your heart is breaking and you got a cold heart. And now it's turning to bitterness and you angry towards people and you snapping on people and you doing all these different things because you're not dealing with the trauma because you keep trying to show up as the strong Black man. And you need to stop doing that and be you.
So going through that process and doing the therapy, and where you are now, particularly with your dad and healing the father wound. One, do you feel like your father wound has been healed? And then two to that is, if not, where are you with that in your healing process?
So I would say my father womb is about maybe 65, 70% healed. I still feel like there's a percentage that still is being worked on because you deal with all of those years of the trauma. It's not going to be an overnight thing where it's just like, okay, cool, it's healed overnight. But I feel like other components I have healed from. Like I don't have that frustration that I did before because I'm like, I asked myself, what trauma did my father go through that he had to cover up to be the man of the household or to be the leader in life or to be the man, in life? What trauma did he go through that he couldn't be supportive to his child? And I feel like sometimes that's not addressed. We always point the finger like, oh, it's the father, he should be perfect and he should be this, but what trauma was not dealt with him? Because clearly there was some trauma that made him want to run away from things, or he couldn't stand to the plate because he probably wasn't dealing with the trauma that, he previously was going through. So how can he stand up to the plate for his child when there's so many different emotions? And I think you mentioned it earlier. I think sometimes fathers get afraid. I don't want to put that trauma on my child. So they think that the running away is the route to go, because if I don't show up in the child's life, then they're going to be better off without me, when really you're making your child become even more toxic because now they're only dealing with a single mother. Are they dealing with a single grandmother? Are they dealing with these adults that are molding and shaping them when meanwhile they're longing for that father's love?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. One thing I can say for myself, July 2019, my father died. He had a heart attack. He was driving, car went through the air, hit a building, he died. At the time of his death, we were not speaking. And the reason why we were not talking was because I was angry at him, because he had come back into my life and he just wanted to act like he had not been there. And my thing was, Khalil, I was like, I'm at this point, I'm 19, pretty much on my way to being grown. You've missed all the stuff in my life. So for you to jump in and act like, oh, they're all that, no, we can't do that. But I said, we can work on building a friendship. But before that happens, I told my father, I said, and my father was a pastor in the PAW. Okay. So I told him, I said, but we need to talk about some things first. And that did not go well with him. He just wanted to skip over all of that and not have the talk about the elephant in the room. And when I would try to talk to him, he would be very belligerent. He would yell at me, hang up in my face. I'm in tears. My brother, was the mediator trying to, get us to talk. And I got to a point where I was like, my brother's name is Brandon. And I was like, no, Brand, like, I'm done with it. I was like, that Negro know how to reach me. He has my number, my email, my social media. I'm done with it. I can't continue to put myself in a space that's emotionally abusive and toxic, because this is not healthy for me. And I said, when he's ready to talk, he knows how to reach me. And it went even so far to the last time I saw him, I went, he was living in Dayton, Ohio. I went, there, and I actually saw him. I was in the military, and I think, I was in the Navy, and on my way, I was like, getting deployed. Something was going on, but I ended up staying the night, like, for a few days. So what I remember now, I was on my way to boot camp, and my grandmother, she had cancer at the time, and she was in hospice. So I went to say goodbye because I knew I wasn't deep down, I knew I wasn't going to see her again. So before I went to boot camp, I went to Ohio. I stayed at his house with him and my stepmother, and I went to go see her. And we went out to eat and stuff. And the whole time I was in the house, he had a man cave. He would not come out. And my brother said he's afraid of you. And I'm short. I'm 5'4". My father was like 6'4", big guy, you know. So like little me and big him. And my brother said he's scared of you. And I'm like, why? He was like, because you represent so much. And the fear of having to address that, he was afraid of seeing that and dealing with that, because the issues that he was running from is now literally sitting in his house. And my brother's very smart, very perceptive. Long story short, we still did not talk or whatever. And then summer 2019, he died and we weren't talking. And so I had all these feelings, because I was like, you know, all this time I had tried to extend the olive branch and talk to my father, but it just never happened. And it wasn't until this year here in Charlotte in my new apartment, during the quarantine, a lot of stuff crazy happened during the quarantine when you're by yourself and you're thinking. And I was sitting in my apartment one day and I was thinking about him, and I started crying. I'm like, why am I crying about my dad? And I was mad about him not being here, and not doing right by me. Like, you know, you're a pastor in the PAW, you're making 6 figures, doing all this stuff fronting, but you got out over here that you never really did anything for. And a lot of people didn't even know about me. You know what I'm saying? So it was, you know, my parents are married, but they divorced. But it was like, just that quick, God was like, I've already dealt with him. God said, I already dealt with him about you. He was like, he knows what he didn't do for you and what he did do. And he was like, I've already dealt with him on that. And it's like, when I heard that, it was like a peace just hit me. And ever since then, I've been okay with it. And I had closure, because I was so mad. Because, you know, sometimes you feel like people do things to you or they're not there and you're angry, not knowing behind the scenes. You don't know how God has dealt with that person. But you're still holding on to all this anger when you should have released and forgave, not knowing God has already handled that. So just release it and let it go, because you don't know how God has already spoken to that person's heart or their conscience. So when God told me that, like, I've already dealt with him about that. You're good. And it was like, I was fine, because I knew I tried to make peace with him. And sometimes you have to get in that spot. For anyone that's listening or watching, like, sometimes we're mad at people and God been handled that 10 years ago and you're still mad. And you're holding up your own healing process because you're holding on and not forgiving and releasing yourself. And we say, oh, healing and forgiveness for the other person or for you and not the other person. We hear it so much. We're like, yeah, whatever. But it's really true. I was mad at somebody that was dead and gone, not knowing God had squashed that on his end and dealt with that man on how he handled me years prior. You know?
That's a word within itself. That's a word within itself. Because so many times you carry around so much baggage, and you are so mad at the world. And sometimes you're even mad at God, because you like, you didn't handle this, and you know, I trusted you, and all
got away with it.
Right.
I think sometimes we treat God like he's like a guard dog. Get him, Jesus.
Right.
Get him. No. Get him, Jesus. It's like, that's not how that works.
No. He's like, like with the other ways, let me handle it. You want the instant gratification. You want to see, you know, it all unravel now. He's like, no, like, let me handle it. And that's where a lot of anger comes from. Because you're like, God, you can handle it. They still doing this, or they still around it. Why you didn't take this? Sometimes you be like, why you didn't take them out? But like, you really be at this anger, and God be like, I already didn't handle that. And so even that, like with me and my dad, like as of recently, even someone told me, it was like, you hold on to so much, and God's already handled that. So let it go. And I didn't understand that when people say let go, you just think, oh, I'm just letting go of the hurt. I'm letting go of the pain. It's really let go of that trauma. Because the more you harp on it, you're not able to see the newness that is for you. You think, oh, I'm still in the same thing, or I'm still feeling the same way. And it's like, because you're not letting it go, because you keep telling God, I want to see them suffer. I want to see them this, or I'm ready for you to rage. And, all of this craziness. And God be looking like, I didn't handle that in different ways that you didn't even know.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, it's also distracting to our purpose. We say we're saved and filled with the Holy Ghost and all that stuff, but yeah, all the energy. And even Marcus talked about this on the accountability call that we do. Like when you are so tied up in the unforgiveness, it blocks your creativity for your brand to write, to photography. Like you work with Nicki Minaj, you work with Keke Palmer and other celebrities, but a piece of you is not 100% committed to what you're doing, not fully, because even in the spiritual realm, part of you is somewhere else and not dedicated because it's tied up in unforgiveness. So can you kind of touch on how unforgiveness can unlock your creativity, not only in your professional life, but also in your relationships and in friendships, and how it makes things, the experience elevated?
I'm so glad you brought this up. So let me tell you, because I can give you a real life example of this. So right before one of my major projects, I said, let these people go. And I didn't even say, God was like, let these people go. It was toxic people that I already knew. I was like, I need to get rid of this. And because I was allowing them around, and I thought that was a way of forgiveness. Like, let me just keep these, individuals around. I know that they're not doing right by me. I know that they're toxic. Let me keep them around because I'm forgiving them by keeping them around. And God was like, let them go. When I tell you, Camille, the next week after I let this certain group of people go, the doors swung open, and like that's when that major opportunity came through. Right after I was like, let him go, like release them from your heart, release them from your mind, release them from your everyday, because you keep thinking about them, you keep trying to figure out how to navigate through things, and I'm telling you to release them. So unforgiveness holds up your projects, your creativity, your blessings, because you are so worried and putting your energy into, well, I can't move like this, or I can't talk like this, or I can't do this, or I can't operate from my gifts because I'm so worried about what are they going to say and what are they going to do and how I'm going to handle this. And you got so much anger here that God can't even speak to you to create, and he can't even speak to your heart to create, because you got to go through all this pain and all this suffering that you've been putting yourself, and all this heaviness that you can't even hear that he's saying, hey, I know that you're angry right now, but if you go ahead and release that, I can give you and download the strategy for the next plan. I could download the strategy for the next idea. But because you're so blocked up here and your heart is so tangled, you're so angry at everybody, you're so angry at the world, you can't even hear the strategy for your creativity. You can't even hear what the plan is for your creativity, because you're so tight. And you're not only tight in your creativity, you're tight in your friendship. So you have no support system, because you can't trust nobody, because you keep trying to hold on to the old baggage. You have no type of opening for support in business, because you can't trust nobody, because they're gonna get over on me, or they're gonna do this. So all this unforgiveness that you're carrying around is hindering you. It's hindering you. It's hindering your creativity. It's hindering your personal relationships. It's hindering all that.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. And I think even for me, looking back, when you're not in a, my thing, my phrase is hashtag creating clarity. I'm all about that. Like being able to create from a clear space. And when you cannot make life choices because your mind is not clear, your heart is not clear, you're attracting things that have nothing to do, it's not in alignment with your purpose. And you'll be like, man, how do I get in this relationship? Or why do I keep meeting the same type of person? And it's all tied up to not being in a clear space, right?
Don't get me started with clear space, because my therapist told me about that. She was like, you need a clear space. She's like, to create and to do things, you need a clear space. So she's like, when all of these different elements are jumbled up, are you worried about so many different other elements? You can't truly create from within. Like, we are spirit beings. So you're not really creating from your authentic self, because your authentic self is covered up with all of this malice and bitterness and anger. That the true creativity from the heart, because you create from the heart, you create from the inside. So if your inside is wrapped up like this or got webs on top of it, it can't even move. Your arm can't move to create that painting. Your arm can't move to type that sheet. Your arm can't, like, you don't realize that unforgiveness also deals with your physical. So people don't realize they be stressing and have headaches and have this and have that because
it is illness.
Yes.
How many people, Khalil, do you think, and those watching on Instagram, thanks for joining us. What's up, Sharonika? Hi, sis. How many people do you feel like have cancer or high blood pressure or hypertension or obesity or overweight because of stress, anxiety, depression, or you 35 but you look 55, sis? You're not aging gracefully. You know, can you kind of hit on that a little bit? How it just manifests as physical illness?
A lot of people are out here with unforgiveness and bitterness and anger on their hearts. And it causes stress. Now, I'm not a doctor, so
Right.
this is my, review. But what I realize is some of the stuff don't even be because of eating. It'd be people that be eating so healthy and, working out every single day, but then they still stressed out. And it's because they still carrying all of that unforgiveness, all of that anger. Even from my mom, that was one of the saddest things to hear. She told me was when she had got breast cancer. The doctor told my mom that she had stress. They saw on the X-ray that there was stress sitting like on different parts of her body, and they would tell her, because you're not moving and because you're not exercising, you're just literally just holding and clenching onto this. So it's causing sickness in your body because of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good. And then a lot of people, when they stress, what do? They go to the comfort food. They go, eat their favorite thing. Okay, cool. I feel comfortable now. I'm great. That's not good though. You're just making yourself comfortable for the moment, but then you go the next day and that anger and that bitterness and that all that stuff is still there because you're not dealing with it.
Yeah, because the food releases endorphins and the chemicals in the brain, and it feels good because it's warm, it's sweet, it's cozy. But then also it's like the food, this plate is not rejecting me. The ice cream is not rejecting me. I like how I feel when I eat ice cream, not knowing you keep doing this, you're going to develop diabetes. Your blood pressure's off the chain. Your body's producing too much cortisol. Now you're overweight. Another conversation for another day.
That's a whole nother. I'm telling you, when I tell you we can go, especially, I'll just say this, especially for creatives. How are you supposed to show up in the world as a creative, as a leader, as a CEO, and you have all of this stuff that's sitting on top of you, and you are a stressed leader? That means you can't articulate what really the vision is and what really is where things are going, because you so stuck in the past. You in 2005 and your business is in 2021, and you still developing and creating ideas and moving and selecting things from 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So people are looking at you like, wow, this person, they got to this level and they're here and they're present now, and you're still like, oh, they don't accept me. They don't want to be here. No one's going to help me. No one's going to do this, because you're still carrying around that stress. You're still carrying around that trauma. You're still carrying around what happened so long ago, and you haven't released that. And until you release it, you're not able to be a better creative, a better business person. So it affects so many different parts that we don't even know about.
Yeah, I call that emotional bookmarking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, geez, I could just talk to you forever and ever. There's so many things I want to unpack out of this conversation. I got to bring you back so we can do a part 2 on this. and just going to, and people don't know. So Khalil came to my house and we cooked. I made crab cakes, and y'all, I can cook. Don't let these lashes fool you. I know how to cook, okay? And we ate and laughed and talked for hours, and we cut up. So even though I know this conversation was one of more of my serious episodes, but Khalil is a clown. Okay, he'll have you rolling.
I will. And will.
What's up, Arwayne? Hey, Arwayne, what's going on? Yeah, he was like, we need a part 2. We're definitely going to bring Khalil back, and I actually want to even bring you back with another brother and just kind of have like a round table just to hear what the brothers have to say about some things. And I love the fact that you trusted me and my audience to even open up and share. So first of all, thank you for that. Much appreciated. And I really feel like Black men need, like I said at the beginning of this episode, be able to discuss about things, because it's hard because, you know, of the images of what a Black man is, and to come out and say, you know, I was molested or this happened to me. But it's also empowering because you take away that shame, and it doesn't make you any less of a man or a person because something happened to you, because that was not in your control. And we have to continue to break down these narratives and these stereotypes. So I feel like, and I mentioned this to someone yesterday, we were talking about the state of Black men in the mental health within the Black community. And I said, if Black men are healthier, the family is better, because they are the foundation of our community. You know, they are the strength. You know, Black women are too, but they are the backbone of the community. And I feel like when the Black men are stronger, the women and the kids are better, everything is better because everything has an order. So I think it's super important that we continue to have these conversations and discuss. And so Black men can feel like, well, man, if he talked about it, I can talk about it. And it can be an empowering thing and not be weaponized. And that's another conversation for another day, as far as when a man is telling you something, ladies or whomever, don't take that and weaponize it. If they're telling you things personally, that's because they trust you. So take that and honor the trust by honoring that through reciprocity, through confidentiality, and not like, oh, I got a secret, I know something on you. But letting the person that is around you, with is a friend, a brother, a cousin, they're looking for a safe haven. So make sure that you are a safe space for our brothers to be able to open up and share, because when they do that, they can heal and be stronger. And when they're stronger, we're stronger and we're better. So I want to, before we close out, what is a takeaway or nugget you would love to give to the listeners and to the watchers here?
Never be afraid of your trauma. Never be afraid to heal. Healing is the way to go. Your mental health is definitely important. And if you do not have a therapist, go see one. There are so many different free links out there. You can go through your insurance. It's for free through your insurance. And I just want to say, cherish and honor your feelings. Cherish and honor your feelings always. That's with all this whole conversation we had. If you don't trust your feelings, if you don't trust your internal, how can you show up for the external?
Awesome. So for those that want to connect with you, want to book you, because you do more than just photography and videography. For those that want to get more into your servicing and bookings and appointments, where can they reach you on social media, Khalil?
Yeah, so we do everything from branding, graphic design, we do it all. So if you're looking for that, you can visit KhalilKavonStudios.com, and you can go to Instagram at Khalil Kavon Studios and YouTube.com/Khalil Kavon.
I love it. First of all, thank you to everyone that's been rocking with me here on Instagram Live, Twitch, YouTube Live, Facebook, those that have been sharing. I really, really appreciate it. We are now here at season 8. We're like 23 downloads from 5,000 downloads as my milestone. So please grab this episode so I can hit the next milestone of 5,000 downloads. We are getting there, knocking it down. If you haven't heard, Chemistry Room Fragrances is now available. This is my room spray collection that I created and designed myself. It's amazing. I don't put mess on it, okay? If my name was on it, you know it's good. Khalil, you know.
I definitely know.
So go to Instagram at Chemistry Room Fragrances and get your Chemistry Room Fragrances today. I have the Excel collection, which also comes with the candles, the room spray, and rose oil. You're absolutely going to love it. Hit the notification button and follow me right here on Instagram at Camille.Estick and all my merch. Listen to the end of this episode, and you'll hear Terrence, who is the official voice of the Speaker Podcast. He's going to give you all the information. Until next time, everybody, this has been your girl, Camille Estick, host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Be blessed. Bye-bye.